AJ Lee fans, you're going to want to hear this in this video. I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to need to know and whether or not it's actually going to happen. Because for years, there's been speculation as to whether or not AJ Lee would ever return to WWE. If it were up to the company, they'd have her back in a wrestling ring as soon as possible. The same thing happened when CM Punk went to AEW, and obviously now that he's back in WWE, fans, well, they want to see AJ Lee back inside of the Squared Circle. Now, keep in mind that she first worked for the company in 2009 in FCW, later went to NXT before being called up to the main roster in 2011. While on the main roster, well, she was a pioneer, she was a trailblazer. She won the Divas Championship 3 times and held the title for 406 days. She exited WWE in 2015 and retired due to health issues. Now, of course, the elephant in the room is the fact that, well, she walked away from wrestling. She walked away from WWE about a year after her husband, CM Punk, walked out of the company after having a creative dispute with Vince McMahon, and then they just fired him even though he was just on a sabbatical. Learned that on a conference call and was fired on his wedding day to AJ Lee. So, in addition to medical issues, in addition to the personal aspect of it, well, AJ Lee, she left WWE. When Punk went to AEW, there was a lot of speculation of, would AJ Lee return? It's been a few years, maybe her body healed up. We've seen countless wrestlers return from spinal stenosis, and it's under a different regime. It's under a completely different promotion. There's not any baggage there. Maybe she would do it. Now, clearly, that didn't happen. Now that Punk is back in WWE after returning in November of 2023 at Survivor Series and basically picking up where he left off as a top star, there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not his wife would return. Now, outside of wrestling, she's found a lot of success. She's written comic books. She's written film and TV scripts. She wrote her own book. And there is a lot of success outside of the wrestling bubble for AJ Lee. She rarely makes appearances at conventions or signings or anything really related to WWE or wrestling in general. But there was a recent pick-me-up, if you will, a recent surge. There was a few WWE stars. Cora Jade was one. Bayley was one, I believe. And they were pushing on social media for AJ Lee to make a return, or at least just make an appearance in WWE. And Lee entertained it in a nice way. Now that leads us to today's video, because WrestleVotes reported on Sports Keys Backstage Pass Patreon that WWE is open to having Lee back and essentially leaving the decision in her hands. This is what WrestleVotes had to say. It's a question I get quite a bit. As far as I know, WWE is totally on board with it. They would welcome it. She picks up the phone and says, I'm in. They're going to say, yes, what took so long? I would say the only two people that probably know the answer are AJ Lee and CM Punk, and whatever that answer may be is up to them. So we shall see. Now keep in mind that AJ Lee, she's always been someone that fans have wanted to see come back. Well, why is that? Well, she became a pretty notable name in WWE, really towards the end of her run. Yes, she was a Divas champion, but more importantly, she gave the forefront of wrestlers to get promo time, right? People think about the women's evolution, or the women's revolution, evolution, and then, in my opinion, our golden era in which we are in now. Everyone points, including myself, the Baileys, the Charlotte Flairs, the Natalias, the Sarayas, the Becky Lynches, the Sasha Banks, as those who, Beth Phoenix, those who in that era helped get the women's division up and running to what we know it is today, based off of in-ring ability. But I also think that AJ Lee doesn't get the same credit as those names got, because she was a really good wrestler. She also had a unique look, but more importantly, she had the promo ability. She had the it factor. She had the charisma that maybe those talents at the time did not. If you go back to early Becky Lynch and early Charlotte Flair, it's rough. Obviously, Natalya, she's never had charisma or it factor or promo ability, but she's a heck of a worker. One of the greatest in-ring wrestlers from the women's roster ever in WWE. I think AJ Lee, if you go back to that infamous Monday Night Raw segment where the Bella Twins and Alicia Fox, I think they were teaming with Team Bad, or whatever that group was, the Charlotte Flair, the Sasha Banks. If you go back to that segment, AJ Lee is up on the ramp. She's up on the stage. She's cutting just a merciful promo. She's going unleashed, scourged earth on the Bella Twins in the women's division. And they're just like calling her names and they're yelling at her, but they don't have mics. So it's just like you hear this noise in the background as AJ Lee's just trying to cut this great promo, this infamous promo. A lot of people's compared it to the pipe bomb promo. I wouldn't go that far, but it was a really, really good promo. If you recall, AJ Lee was a really, really to describe it, her way of being able to be a manager was very, very unique. You think of Big E, you think of Dolph Ziggler, you think of her ties with Daniel Bryan, a.k.a. Bryan Danielson. You think of the relationship tease between her and CM Punk when Punk was feuding with Bryan. Like, there's so much that AJ Lee has done in this business that I think people overshadow and they overlook and they don't give her the respect that she deserves. Not only from a in-ring standpoint, but a promo standpoint and a character standpoint. Like, she had her gimmick down. And it was just truly her with the volume turned up. As Steve Austin likes to say, that's usually the best characters in the business. I would tend to agree. AJ Lee, she met her mark, right? She set her mark. She made her mark in this industry, and she bounced. And whenever you do that, whenever you have a wrestler who is beloved, who has had a ton of success, who's well-respected in their business, and then they bow out early, the fans, they're not quite ready to say goodbye to them. Well, that always creates interest. That always creates a desire to have more and get more and see more. And that is what AJ Lee has. Do I think AJ Lee will return to WWE and wrestle again? I think she will. I think the day and age of them bringing back legends and doing Royal Rumble appearances and etc., she's still very, very young. She's still in her 30s. And with Punk being back, then that really, really sets up things. So from just a easiness of just making a Royal Rumble appearance, her husband in the company, and WWE under a different regime, I think all three makes ingredients and makes a recipe for AJ Lee to return to WWE. I would love to hear what you have to say down below in the comments area below. Do you think AJ Lee will return to WWE one day? Let me know.